Always Best Care specializes in helping seniors who wish to remain in their home but need assistance. Our flexible care programs vary from hourly to live-in. Simply put, we're there when you need us. And Always Best Care is an approved Community Health Choices provider. Call today and we'll meet with you to develop a personalized care plan. Always Best Care Senior Services, doing more, caring more, and dedicated to exceeding your expectations. Always.
Always Best Care is a great place to work.
Flexibility,
leadership,
purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Did you know he'll help you understand? Did you know always a right-hand man? Did you know he's gonna make it clear? Did you know? Come on, listen here. Did you know?
Hello, welcome to the Did You Know Show. My name is Brian Green. I am so happy to be here with you today. I have with me today one of my very dear, long-standing friends. When you know somebody for over 40 years, you almost consider them more than family. They know your moves, they complete your sentences. But we're friends, too, in community service. And today, I'm bringing to you my very good friend, Lynette Medley Thurman, who is the visionary founder of No More Secrets, Mind, Body, and Spirits, Incorporated. And she has been with her cape out here in the community, in her community and our community, just really attacking a lot of issues that a lot of people probably wouldn't even talk to or deal with. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Lynette. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Brian? Thanks for having me.
I'm so good. You know, the weather is great today, and really I am so excited to have you because I stalk you on Facebook, as I say all the time. And you have this new project that you've been working on that has just kind of mighty morphed into something really big to benefit young people, specifically young women. Why did you begin doing the Period or Not Respected in Period Poverty for School-Age Youth campaign?
Well, Brian, it's funny. I always tell people when they ask about this campaign, I was like, I didn't choose this campaign. So, you know, the history around No More Secrets is, you know, I'm a sexuality educator, you know, therapist and counselor. So I'm always talking to young people and adults around, you know, making safe decisions, healthy relationships. And really, you know, one of the biggest conversations has been around self-esteem, bodily autonomy, and consent. So with the Me Too movement coming around, I had a lot of new clients coming in or referrals around people making unsafe relationships or, you know, relationship choices or, you know, not setting boundaries. So some of the young people who were referred were supposedly, as they say, acting out sexually. Mm-hmm. So in having conversations, it came up when I was talking about consent and bodily autonomy. One of the young ladies, I'll never forget, told me, she said, well, Miss Lynette, how can I value my body when 1 week out the month anything goes? And I'm like, what do you mean anything goes? So, you know, that was the same conversation. She was like, well, I have to do anything I can to be able to get, you know, pads and tampons. And I'm like, what do you mean? I said, you know, first, you know, because of our ignorance, are you homeless? You know, do you not have parents? Are you in care? And she was just like, no, I live at home with my mom, but, you know, we don't have money and, you know, we're on public assistance. And I'm like, well, you know, WIC covers it, you know, your Medicaid, Medicare or whatever. She was like, no, none of those cover that. Well, I'm going to find you some resources because, you know, that's what we do as therapists. You know, right. I'm going to, you know, look this up and find you some resources. And to my astonishment and dismay, there were no resources. So called a couple of organizations and they're like, yeah, we can give them 1 or 2, but we don't have monthly supplies. So it became, you know, noticeable to me that there were no other organizations that actually provided free feminine hygiene products. And because of it, like this young lady, she said that she would use birth control pills nonstop to cut off her menstrual. She would steal. She would sell her body for sex, you know, all these things. And then if she could not get the money, she would use items such as socks or newspaper or paper towels or anything. So it became apparent to me that somebody has to do something. So of course, you know, I was like, okay, I'm not going to take this on. I'm going to call some other people to try to do it and try to say, okay, well, let me pass it on. And I did call some, you know, city representatives, organizations, and thought that maybe it would, you know, come to fruition. But sadly, this wasn't something that people really wanted to take on. So that's how I ended up this campaign. And I'm really intentional about talking about the young people, because I've seen some legislation and, you know, people talking about people who are homeless or, you know, in prisons. But I'm talking about young people who live with their parents, who live in poverty or don't have the economic means to buy pads or tampons. And that's what we basically started providing. We created this bank in our office so that they can have them for free.
And so we are at her office in the Germantown, I guess this is Germantown, Mount Airy section of Philadelphia. But this journey, this campaign takes you far all over the city. And I guess what I want to kind of highlight is what's different about your approach to this?
I think that right now you'll hear a lot of people talking about they're fighting for period poverty or menstrual equity, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit. Ours is an in-community approach,
okay.
A one-on-one, in our community, in-your-face approach. We're not going through organizations or 1,000 different forms that they're filling out. They'll message me, call me, email me, and what we do, if you can't come to the office, so that was a wide awakening too. There's poverty, and then there's deep poverty. Poverty is, okay, I can't get a pad or tampon, you know, because of financial, you know, difficulties, not enough money in my bank account or whatever, but I can get to your office to get some to carry me and my family through. Then there's deep poverty, where I don't even have enough money to get to your office. So we became a delivery service.
Talk about that.
Okay, so
what does that mean, a delivery service?
Delivery service is somebody needs supplies, and we actually get the information, what size pads they need, how many people are in the home, and we actually go out and deliver them to our community door to door. We're knocking on their doors, giving them the supplies that they need. Every time we do a delivery, each individual inside the house, we give 3 months supplies. So if you have one person, it's 3 months for one person. If you have 5 people, we give 3 months supplies for 5 people. Now, that's very expensive. And because we're the only ones doing that, there's no other organization nationwide that you can call and say, hey, we need pads and tampons, and can you come to our house and deliver them? So now we're upwards to 150 deliveries a week.
And we're in your office, and you have obviously all types of supplies and all that kind of thing. Can you grab that sign really quickly? Because one thing I want you talked about poverty. So in period poverty and stop the silence. So this is a picture of a young woman, and then this is different situations in terms of what they use. And you talk about items in terms of socks or napkins or paper, newspaper, everything but a pad. So, this person is silent because this is not something that when young women really, because in my mind, young women are just starting to really get into this cycle and their menses and that kind of a deal. And so they're silent about it, but then now they're put with the responsibility of getting their own feminine products.
Definitely.
And so I just want you to hold that up. So in period poverty, kind of you glossed over it a little bit, but go back to it. Okay. Period poverty is what?
Period poverty is the inability to buy feminine hygiene products due to financial constraints. That's what period poverty is, the inability to buy them. The reason I wanted to say that is not that I don't have access to them. I can't buy them at all. So the reason I said let's differentiate. Wow. So right now, there's a lot of talk about menstrual equity, and people are trying to implement bills and laws right now to put free feminine hygiene products in schools and community centers. That's great. I'm for it. We'll talk about that later. I'm rallying, I'm for it, I'm lobbying. But let's not differentiate and forget that menstrual equity means that, okay, I'm in school, my period comes on, as I'll say, pad insecurity or tampon insecurity. I can't get them. Schools give them to you. Great. That's 1 or 2 to kind of get me through the day. Period poverty isn't addressed because even though you're giving me 1 or 2 in school, I don't have anything when I get home. So period poverty is really, okay, you might give them to me in school for that moment, and I want that to happen because I want kids to be able to go to school and be able to get the supplies. But when we're talking about youth in deep poverty, then what happens when I go home? Is the school going to supply 3 or 4 boxes for when I get home so that while I'm home, I take care of it on the weekend when I take care of it? Or are they going to just give me 1 or 2 in school? So period poverty is what No More Secrets is pushing for school-age youth, that, okay, I want them in schools, but also I need Medicaid or Medicare or WIC or anybody else to realize that, hey, this is a necessity. It's not a luxury. This is a medical need that they need, because this is a normal part of life. The conversation is, if you go into the bathroom, you expect to have soap and toilet paper. You do not expect to go to the bathroom and then have to put something in the machine to be able to get a piece of toilet paper. You would think that's, what, crazy. Right. You would think it's unheard of. You would actually think it's inhumane, right?
Right.
In this day and age. So how do you think women and young girls in 2019 that we can't have access to a pad or tampon? And a lot of it is because of the stigmatized notions around a pad or tampon. That's nasty. That's disgusting.
Wow.
This is a normal part of life for our young people.
So then, Lynette, you and I talk all the time, obviously, we're friends. It's my understanding that young women are missing school. Yes. Always just did a survey, and the report came out that 1 in 5 young people in the United States are missing school because of period poverty or pad insecurity. And that's because if I'm in poverty and I don't have a pad or tampon, I can't go to school because I'm going to bleed all over myself. So let's take this a little further, because people are like, oh, well, they can wash clothes or they can do whatever. Okay, let's talk that a little further. So let's talk about it. I'm in poverty, and even if my parents can get me a dollar store pad, because people say, why don't they just go to the dollar store? No problem. But then what about bathroom access? So I have on a dollar store pad. My menses is heavy because, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's unpredictable, heavy. I'm bleeding through this dollar store pad. I'm asking the teacher, can I go to the bathroom every, hour? 2 hours? No, you can't go to the bathroom. So then I bleed through my uniform. Okay, I'm in poverty. How many uniforms do you think I have at home? 1. Right. Okay, so then that 1 uniform needs to be washed. How am I getting it washed? Because I live in poverty. I don't have a washing machine at home, so my mom has to go get it laundered. So think of all these other expenses that come along with the menses that no one's talking about. So they miss school basically because they'd rather stay at home and just bleed on socks, underwear, and whatever else they can find. Or sheets. Like people say, they rip pieces of sheets, whatever they can, to basically bleed at home, so they're not embarrassed in school for bleeding through or asking somebody for help, and then they go to school after their periods are over. And so we're talking about, and you and I have talked about this offline, because I followed the campaign. So you've given an example of one female, let's just say. Mm-hmm. What happens if there's multiple siblings? And that's true. And then, you educated me, and I've educated some folks that sometimes your menses sink with your siblings, and sometimes even at work I've learned that too, when talking to people in my office. Mm-hmm. So then you have more than one person staying home because now they can't afford something as simple as a feminine napkin. And that's so true, and that's what happens. So the parents will be like, okay, it's not just me. I have to pay for me, and just think, onset of the menses is getting earlier and earlier. So I might have a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old, and all of our menses are on at the same time. It's no way I can afford to buy those products and be able to send them to school and be able to pay for my utilities, my rent, and anything else, because I really don't have the money for it. Wow, that's really impactful. If you just tuned in, my name is Brian Green. I'm sitting here with my very good friend, long-term friend, Lynette Medley Thurman, who is the visionary of No More Secrets, Mind, Body, and Spirit Incorporated, and she has been on this End Period Poverty campaign, Respect the Dot. Stay tuned as we come back to the other side. We're going to talk more about Lynette's political waves and where she's been rallying, where she's been lobbying, and why is it so important to her. Stay tuned.
Did you know?
Always Best Care specializes in helping seniors who wish to remain in their home but need assistance. Our flexible care programs vary from hourly to live-in. Simply put, we're there when you need us. And Always Best Care is an approved Community Health Choices provider. Call today and we'll meet with you to develop a personalized care plan. Always Best Care Senior Services, doing more, caring more, and dedicated to exceeding your expectations. Always.
Do you know how it is to have to ask someone for a pad or a tampon? It's humbling to have to tell someone
that I'm using toilet paper. I had to have my daughter use toilet paper. It's a nationwide epidemic, but if you think about it, anywhere the poverty exists, this would exist, and no one's talking about it because of the stigma and taboo. No More Secrets Mind, Body, Spirit Incorporated is actually one of the nation's first and only comprehensive sexuality awareness organizations. We give free feminine hygiene products to individuals and their families. We do, counseling and education. We do empowerment for women. And our largest thing right now is period or not, respect the dot. And that is our work.
Always Best Care is a great place to work.
Flexibility.
Leadership. Purpose.
Great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity. Inclusion. Compasión.
We love our jobs.
If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Did you know?
Welcome back to the Did You Know Show. My name is Brian Green. I'm the host of the Did You Know Show. I want to remind our viewers that I'm also on the radio. You can check me out on Saturdays on WURDradio.com or 96.1 FM, Saturdays at 4 p.m. The Did You Know Show is centered around connecting people to home, community, and business resources that you ordinarily wouldn't know about. And right here and right now, one of the resources that a lot of people don't know about is No More Secrets, Mind, Body, and Spirit Incorporated. And then we have the Lynette Medleys of the world that are out here just making a difference. Lynette, when we talk about the conversation of period or in period poverty and respect the dot, in period poverty, all that kind of thing, why is it so important to you?
It's important to me because one of the things that I think people don't think about is that this is basically a human rights issue. I kind of think about it. It's so funny. The other day I was on the radio, and the lady, the newscaster, she announced me as an activist. And I'm like, activist? Where did that come from?
Wow.
And then I said to myself, and she was like, well, you are an activist. She said, because you saw something and you did something besides just, looked at it and said, oh, well, that's an issue. You actually are doing something about it. And I think it's important to me because in this day and age, not too many people really step up to do something. I kind of always refer to, we're a community now of a post and share. We're a post, like, and share, and that's it. We see something and it's just like we just put it out there.
That's heavy. That's right, though, yeah.
It's a post, like, and share, like we'll see something and that's it. And look at this and share, but what are we doing after that? So I felt like I was compelled to actually do something because even though when we're talking about voting rights and different things like that, as people of color and then as women, somebody had to say, this isn't right. Somebody had to do something. And so I felt like with these young people coming to me and saying, Miss Lynette, nothing has changed. What are we going to do? And I'm looking at them like, okay, well, I'm going to do something. So it wasn't just about having the supplies, and then they're like, okay, that's not enough. Now delivering the supplies, Miss Lynette, that's not enough. Now it's like, okay, what do I do? So it's delivering, talking to people, but also being that activist to say, okay, this isn't right, and speaking out about it. So it's important to me because as a woman of color, I have to protect my next generation. One of the things that we do is that as we get to certain points, and it's ironic that everybody's talking about the Harriet Tubman movie right now, right?
Yes.
What was so great about Harriet Tubman? She was free. She was a woman who was free but didn't leave the other people behind. So she gave up everything that she had just gained. Remember? Freedom, not being a slave, her level of comfortability to go back into a space that wasn't comfortable, that wasn't safe, that actually could have gotten her back, into captivity,
right,
to be able to bring people with them. So that's my mindset. Okay, I'm not dealing with this. I understand what it's like, because of my, background,
right,
but I can't let them sit there and think it's okay when I'm not in that position. So I need to go back and say, okay, this isn't right for them. How can I help them and bring them forward? Instead of saying, oh, well, I see that's an issue. Wow, I can't wait till somebody does something about it. Because as laws are changing, as people are lobbying, as people are rallying, and as people are, posting, liking, and sharing, they're bleeding.
And you know, it's difficult enough for young people, young men and women, as you said, you know, no more secrets, mind, body, and spirit, having those uncomfortable conversations, but those very relevant conversations that are happening.
Yes.
It's already tough enough to go through adolescence in these days and times, especially with the cyberbullying, with the like, post, and sharing, with the experimental and all that kind of thing, opioid addictions and that kind of deal.
Definitely.
But that's when you can, it's difficult already when you can afford feminine products. I mean,
yes.
growing up as a young woman, understanding the helping and keeping of your body. But then when you can't afford it, then what do you do? Who do you turn to? There's no resources out there. And I'm looking around this room where we are. It's a small space, and it's a modest space in Germantown. But who supports you? Who supports this organization? Where do you get your funding from?
All of the funding that we have for our organization is through donations.
Wow. Wow. And so this is donations from people, from some organizations, not all. Mm-hmm. Some people have gotten involved. And I'm going to invite the viewership. If you're out there viewing, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can make a tax-free donation because you are a 501c3.
Yes.
You can make a donation to the No More Secrets, and and really to end period poverty. And it's my understanding, that this has gotten to the point where you have people across the country reaching out to you. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay, so it's ironic that, like I said, we're doing about 100 and 150 deliveries within the city, between Philadelphia, New Jersey.
Wait, deliveries? What is that? Okay, stop, time out. Okay, so we talked about donations. Let's split it up. Let's not just gloss over that. 100 to 150 donations. Who, what, when, and where? Where are the resources again?
The resources are through donations. People basically donate products. Some people donate through our GoFundMe. Some people donate through our PayPal, which is on our site. We have gotten some donations from organizations, which was Cora Brand, and Always did send us a couple of donations also. But everything is really through donations, through word of mouth. Us, really being able to get the donations. And you said deliveries. Yeah, we're out 365 days, 24 hours a day. We do donations all day long in between, especially when we get crisis calls like, hey, I just got relocated from an abusive relationship, or I just got discharged from such and such, or my daughter's menses just came on, or whatever. So we actually go out with bags, and we physically, in our car, load up our car, and we deliver them. So we deliver them to households, and we also deliver to schools and organizations.
So this location, in a lot of ways, has become kind of the depository of feminine products.
Yes, it is.
Or some would refer to it as a bank.
Yes, and that's what it is. We've created, as we say, the first feminine hygiene bank in the city of Philadelphia, and we service Philadelphia, New Jersey, and Delaware. But again, when we talk about nationwide, we do ship nationwide. We get requests from Las Vegas, North Carolina, Texas, Virginia, Alabama. And we basically ship to them also, because there's so many women who are desperate. They're like, no one exists in the world like you, where we can just say, hey, we need this. And just think about it. I always tell people, and they're like, well, what is your vetting process, and what is this, and what is that? I said, do you know how humiliating it is to have to reach out to someone for menstrual supplies?
Wow.
Because we haven't created a language to talk about it. So that's what my young people say all the time. They're like, Miss Lynette, no one talks about it. So it's almost like, if I can't even talk about my menses or my period, as I tell people, then how can I even ask for something that I need? Now, you will sit there and say, I can ask for food. We have free lunch programs. If they can't afford food, then they can't afford menstrual supplies. I always tell people. We do clothing drives. If they can't afford clothing, they can't afford menstrual supplies. If they're, house hopping, if they can't afford housing and electricity, they can't afford menstrual supplies. So I kind of like to normalize the conversation and destigmatize it so that we realize the need in the community.
Wow, and in my mind, I know there's a lot of places that young men or women can go and get, birth control.
Yes.
You can go get birth control, condoms as such, at a lot of different places, but nobody is giving out menstrual supplies. That's very interesting, and that's captivating. Wow.
And I think it's because we live in a misogynistic society, a society that's really more focused on male-centered things, or people of both genders. So remember, condoms and protection and all of those things are for both genders. But remember, this is just for female bodies. So it's kind of dismissive. It's not something that's normalized and talked about as a necessity, you know, because just think, in 35, you know, states, feminine hygiene products are still taxed, whereas Viagra and, you know, Rogaine aren't. You know,
Wow.
in some states, popcorn isn't taxed, but pads and tampons are, because they're still considered luxury items.
Wait, menstrual pads, tampons, always, all this other stuff that we're looking around, that's considered a luxury item?
They're considered a luxury item. They're not considered a necessity in most states, and that's why people are rallying and really trying to get all the states to drop the tax on them, because they're a necessity. But if you really think about it, it hasn't been something that's been normalized in our society. You know, the whole thing around a period or a cycle is something that people don't talk about. Even when we teach it in school, it's like, we'll teach it to the young people and we'll move the boys aside. So because we don't really talk about it to both genders, and if you think about fathers, they don't talk about it to their sons, it's something that's really not discussed. So in a male-centered community, in society, that's like a taboo topic, so that's not something that's normal. So the more we normalize it and have these conversations and realize a girl could go in the bathroom and think she's just going to, you know, urinate or something, and she has blood in her underwear. You know, it's not like they can...
What do you do next?
And what do you do next? You, like they say, they wrap up in wads of toilet paper because they don't have a pad or a tampon. Or if they have to what? Leave the bathroom stall, right? Go down the hall, maybe ask a nurse, can I use one? Or can I get one? Does that even make sense?
Wow, it's my understanding, and I may be wrong, that most elementary schools may provide one or two. In junior high school, they start to charge you at the nurse's office.
Yes, they do.
And a lot of times in high schools, they may or may not offer them through the nurse's office. But then, I guess if I put myself in a young woman's situation, I have to take that walk of kind of, not shame, but I'm embarrassed. I got to go down and say I don't have it. I'm not prepared. And so, you know, and I think about the single parents that are out there. I mean, if you're a single woman raising a single young woman, I guess it would be different. And I think about my single dads out there a little bit that might have to deal with this situation too, because you mentioned earlier in the conversation that there's different sizes. I don't have a period, so I don't know.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to make light of the situation, but it's not I don't have a frame of reference. And you're right. When we learn about you know, health education, you know, you talk about the period, but you didn't talk about the pads.
Nope.
You know, and you and I know because we went to school together.
Yes.
We grew up and we went to school, went to junior high school. We took that class together. And so, you know, from my perspective now of what's needed in the community, you never would have known. I didn't know. I mean, this has been a learning experience for me. And as much as I have learned, there's still a lot more that people can learn. Hi. So, you know, we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back on the other side. Lynette, you've been out there in the Capitol and in Harrisburg and D.C. We're going to show some of the rallies, you know, after this break. And when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation about ending period poverty. Stay tuned.
Did you know?
Always Best Care specializes in helping seniors who wish to remain in their home but need assistance. Our flexible care programs vary from hourly to live-in. Simply put, we're there when you need us. And Always Best Care is an approved Community Health Choices provider. Call today and we'll meet with you to develop a personalized care plan. Always Best Care Senior Services, doing more, caring more, and dedicated to exceeding your expectations. Always.
Do you know how it is to have to ask someone for a pad or a tampon? It's humbling to have to tell someone that I'm using toilet paper. I had to have my daughter use toilet paper. It's a nationwide epidemic, but if you think about it, anywhere that poverty exists, this would exist, and no one's talking about it because of the stigma and taboo. No More Secrets Mind, Body, Spirit Incorporated is actually one of the nation's first and only comprehensive sexuality awareness organizations. We give free feminine hygiene products to individuals and their families. We do, you know, counseling and education. We do empowerment for women. And our largest thing right now is period or not, respect the dot. And that is our work.
Always Best Care is a great place to work.
Flexibility.
Leadership. Purpose.
Great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity. Inclusion. Compasión.
We love our jobs.
If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Did you know?
Secret's Mind, Body, Spirit Incorporated doesn't just talk the talk. We walk the walk because we have independently created the only feminine hygiene bank and delivery service in the city of Philadelphia that services Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Not only them, we are now shipping nationwide to anyone who says we need menstrual supplies. Additionally, we provide red boxes filled with supplies to any school who says that we need them in our schools because our youth should be able to get these supplies. Why? Why do we do it? Because we've seen the devastating effects firsthand. Youth who live in poverty are missing multiple days of school, which directly affects grades, standardized test scores. They use their bodies as bargaining tools for something as basic as a freaking tampon.
Right. I don't know.
They're at risk of getting sexually transmitted infections and diseases, and also they're at risk of having early teen pregnancy. But the main thing I want to tell you is that, you know, we always talk about ending period poverty. We are period poverty. I brought a busload of people here who actually need supplies. I didn't bring the politicians. I didn't bring the people sitting in the office. I brought people who I deliver products to because for some reason there's an ambiguity about who needs these supplies. How many of you have went to go to a job interview and it came on, you're like, oh crap, do I have enough money in my account? How many people have went to college and your refund check didn't come yet and you couldn't get supplies? These are the conversations we don't have. So my message is check your daggone privilege. Right now, check your privilege. Because don't sit here and just talk about it because it's convenient, because these people need the services. So when you get home, check your privilege. Make sure that you reach out to your politicians, to your constituents, and everybody else and say, this is not an option. This is a necessity. Okay. You say it's a luxury. It doesn't feel like a luxury when my kids are walking down the hall with wrapped up toilet paper and wrapped up construction paper and scotch tape between their legs. That's not a walk of luxury. That's a walk of shame, and it should not happen in the United States in 2019. Okay. Again, I'm No More Secrets, and period or not, respect the dot is who we are and what we got, and this shit gotta stop. Yeah!
A good friend of mine who's advocated for women and girls in my district, Lynette Medley, was up today sharing some of the stories she heard from students in schools in my community.
Holly was just 13 when she encountered period poverty, but the horror increased each year as her and her 4 siblings grew. It became a dilemma, and during that time of the month, it became apparently clear that she couldn't go to school because she didn't have the supplies. It got to be too much, so Holly, like so many other young people, dropped out of school. Our girls are in risky behaviors such as stealing, trading sex, just to afford feminine hygiene products. They're being involved in human sex trafficking. It's increasing our girls' chances of getting sexually transmitted infections and diseases. And our girls' instances of pregnancies are increasing just because it will stop them from getting a period, so it's easier to get pregnant.
Welcome back to the Did You Know Show. I'm sitting here with my friend, my lifetime friend, Lynette Medley Thurman, who is out here trying to end period poverty. And before we go on in our conversation, Lynette, let's clarify, because you know our producer, who's on top of us,
yes,
wanted us to clarify that it was either 150 donations or 150 deliveries.
150 deliveries a week.
A week. So that's 150 deliveries a week. And then, you know, we were talking offline and off camera, and some of that conversation I had to bring back to here. When you talk about support, so let's go back to that again. Some of the organizations that have supported you are?
So some of the organizations that have supported me are Cora Brand and Always Brand has sent some donations to be able to give to the young people in our communities.
Now, we did just see some of the speeches that you were making either at the Capitol or down in D.C. Who has some of the legislators been, or excuse me, I get so offended when I say legislators, the elected officials that you have garnered some support, and who's introduced a bill?
Okay, well, Senator Collette has introduced the menstrual equity bill, and that's basically to be able to have free feminine hygiene products within our schools and spaces like that, just like you have access to toilet paper and soap. And then also State Representative Oten has a bill, it's Lily's bill, and that's a bill to have free feminine hygiene products within schools.
So then let's talk about the problem. So then, well, let's talk about the solution. Excuse me. So we were talking offline and you made a good point. So then if we do if something does happen and there is some funding to put feminine products in the school, does it stop there?
Well, it wouldn't stop period poverty. It would basically decrease, instances of maybe young people being able to go to school and be able to function in school on a large scale, of course, but it wouldn't prevent, as I say, period poverty, because when they go home, they still wouldn't have access to menstrual supplies. Or, if they're on the weekend, they wouldn't have it. Or if it was a holiday, they wouldn't have access to menstrual supplies. So it can still stop somebody from going to school. It can still stop them from being able to, do a report, do a research paper, do a group. We always have kids getting together for group activities. So if I'm on the weekend or I'm after school and I don't have supplies. So again, I reiterate, I support both of those bills wholeheartedly because that's a first step. But let's not neglect period poverty when we're talking about menstrual equity as a whole. Because again, if I give them some in school, will we supply enough supplies for them to take home? For them to be able to deal with it all night long until the next day? Will we be able to give them supplies over the weekend? Because a lot of our acts are on the weekend or on the holidays, or summer break was just ridiculous with requests because even though schools many times didn't supply it, but they still had access to toilet paper and construction paper and socks from that lost and found, which helped them sometimes to get through difficult times, whereas in summer, sometimes they didn't have anything. So these are the conversations that we really don't talk about.
So again, people, organizations, elected officials, if you're watching, certainly you can look at the bottom of your screen and you can figure out how it's the best for you to make a donation, whether that's via PayPal, whether that's through the website or the link and that kind of a deal. But ultimately, Lynette, why do you think no one has stepped in to help on a greater scale? What do you think it's about? I think I know, but I want you to say it out loud.
I think it's still because of the stigma behind the period. I don't think that people want to step up and say, hey, I'm an advocate for, periods and menstrual cycle and bleeding. I'm going to keep saying bleeding. People bleed. It's normal. Every month, during the cycle, young people and the women, they bleed. And I don't think that it's a pretty conversation. People would get behind other ideas because it's something that's already been talked about. It's comfortable. Not to diminish, the runs and the walks and the donations, but no one wants to say I'm the one behind period. It's funny. Couple of times we've been applying for grants for educational programs because we do all types of educational programs in our community around consent and bodily autonomy and all these different things. And we started doing the period and not respected menstrual awareness part of it. And, because that ties into consent. And do you know how many organizations have reached out to us and were like, okay, we'll do the consent piece and all of that, but we don't want to do the period part. We don't want to fund the period part. So when people are like, oh, why won't organizations step in? There's no funding for menses awareness or period poverty because we haven't talked about it. So it's not a grant out there. And there's so many times people have reached out to me. It's like, oh, well, this is a girl's education or women's educational. And in fine print, it'll say we'll fund anything as long as it's not associated with period or menses or period poverty.
Wow. So Lynette, what was the school district's response to the crisis?
We had one initial meeting with persons from the school district. What was the mayor's Office of Education, Department of Human Services, the health department, and some other, I don't know what the other organization was in there. And we basically were kind of laughed out of the meeting. We were kind of told that it wasn't an issue in our community. If they got a bunch of principals in the table, they wouldn't say it's an issue. It's not a health risk, because what we were asking was that, just like when we ask about other risks when you're doing safety assessments, because this is a safety issue, this is a risk issue. So when we're asking, you know, do you have access to food? Do you have access to clothing? Do you have access to housing? The same risky behaviors that we engage in to get those things are the same risky behaviors that young people are engaging in to get a pad or a tampon. So I was asking, you know, was it a way that you could ask this on a risk assessment to associate that with risk? And people were like basically saying it's not a risk, it's not an issue. The health department, Department of Human Services, different people. So that was their reaction. The school district's response was, we supply donations to 13 schools out of the district through Fill Abundance. And there are 200 and something schools in the district, but they supply it to 13 schools from a donation. So I would like to tell people, your perspective is not someone's lived experience or reality. I don't think that dealing with the menstrual cycle, which is a normal, everyday part of a young person's life, should be treated as a charity. I think it should be deemed a necessity. So why would we have to beg and steal and borrow from a small portion of donations to deal with something as vast as someone's menstrual cycle? Just again, like I said, when you go into the restroom, you expect to have toilet paper and soap.
Right.
How would you feel to walk in there and say, oh, we don't have toilet paper and soap. We only gave it to 13 schools in the district. So maybe you can get some toilet paper from the school down the street. Maybe you can barter and, you know, bargain to get that. It sounds crazy to you. So that's the same thing I'm saying about menstrual supplies. When they walk in, young people don't know that it's going to be on, or if it's on, why can't we supply this for them?
Right, because the assumption is with a young person, it's kind of new. You don't really have it all together. You don't know the routine.
Definitely.
Sometimes, you know, from my understanding of a period, you know, when you're young and I guess your body's starting to get established through that next step in adolescence, it could come on the second week, third week, fourth week, you know, and it's something that you prepare for, but it's something that you're getting to know your body. But it's also, in its own way, a little embarrassing, a lot embarrassing, because a young person now has to deal with this, and then you don't want to seem, as I said before, as you said, unprepared. Lynette, what can somebody expect? What is the process? Walk us through the process of when you get these phone calls. How does that happen? What happens? I know you and Naya, the great Naya, your executive. I would be remiss. I would be totally remiss if I did not mention your able-bodied daughter, executive director, your right, your left, your go-to, your day one. She is on the phone. She is writing letters. She's filling out applications. But what is the process? I'm a young woman or I'm a parent. I call in. What happens?
Okay, so you can send a referral to us or request to us several ways. You can call us, which our number is out there. You can text
the numbers at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, you can call us. You can text us, which people do. But also, there's a request form right on our website under No More Secrets, Mind, Body, Spirit on our website. And it's a request. They can fill it out. And basically, we don't ask for a lot of information. We ask for your name, your address, your email address, and how many kids and how many people are in there, and what do you need. So people put it through that way. Or the biggest thing that's coming is Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
We get DMs and we get instant messages.
So for us old heads, what is a DM?
A direct message through social media. And the reason that started is because we've been doing this. Let me tell the viewing audience. We've been doing this for 3 years. Yep. This did not just start. It's just been highlighted and talked about. So we've been doing this for 3 years. But initially, I think that we were a little embarrassed. So as I tell people, we used to come like thieves in the night, kind of, here you go, don't show nobody, we ain't talking. So the young people were like, Miss Lynette, why aren't you taking pictures? Why aren't you putting this on social media? Why aren't you letting people? I was like, because I thought you would be embarrassed. And they're like, oh no, people need to know. So that's where the signature pink bags came in to us delivering them, holding them up. So through social media, parents, caregivers, organizations were able to see.
They're tied together.
Yeah, because it's 2 different people in the household, 3 months per person.
So these are the bags. And so it's all size, all different size bags, because the requests, I can imagine, are different.
Yes.
So they got you together. And so in a sense, you were kind of falling into what we
societal norms.
Right, the society norms of, oh, it's a secret, and then no more secrets. Isn't that ironic?
Yes, it's ironic.
Like you just said that, you know, oh, in Thief of the Night, here go your pads in the middle of the night, and the kids are telling you, no, we need to.
We need people to know so their friends can know, and also, even though our push is for school-age kids, youth, because that's a forgotten population, they can't, you know, get the financial means. We also, as we say, is school-age youth and their families and communities. So it can be a single mom, it can be somebody else who needs them, because the conversation is still the same. We've had parents be like, hey, I didn't get paid, my paycheck was short, I didn't have enough money, can I get this supply? Because remember, again, let me say this again. Philadelphia is one of the largest cities with the most poverty, right? So if that's the case, we have food banks, we have clothing banks, we have emergency shelters. How do we not have a feminine hygiene bank?
We also have places where you can get needles.
Free needles, needle exchange, free condoms. But our organization, again, is the only feminine hygiene bank in the city of Philadelphia, serving New Jersey and Delaware. I just need to keep saying that. And we don't have a large organization. We don't have 1,000 employees.
This is still in grassroots. I just started to say, so you could benefit from some volunteers.
Yes. So we really do this on our own and go out to our community, into the communities to do this for them.
Wow. I really, you know, I'm blown back about it and the information. One, because I've prided myself, you know, we stay in touch with friends. We're personal friends, and I stalk you on Facebook, and I'm always applauding you from afar. You know, shameless plug, but Always Best Care, for what we can cut out of the budget, has supported you, you know, minimally.
No, not minimally. Always Best Care. So one of our delivery parts in our organization, as part of the Period or Not Respected End Period Poverty campaign, is that we go into communities, into people's homes, and we give them supplies. But also we have something else called the red boxes. So the red boxes are resource education distribution. Because we can't get to every household in every community, we created the red box bin donation, which is large bins filled with feminine hygiene products, and we deliver them to schools and community centers so that they can actually be able to give them to the students or people in their community, because again, we don't have any feminine hygiene banks. So Always Best Care, when I was frantic, like, how am I going to get bins? How am I going to do this? Sounds like a good idea. I don't know how to, I can't afford bins. I can barely afford feminine. He said, we will sponsor the bins and order some bins for you. So Always Best Care was the ones who actually sponsored and helped us get our initial bins to start doing the in-community delivery. So he likes to be modest, but that's where it came from.
But, you know, and I want to encourage other organizations that are out there, whether you're, you know, a supermarket owner, or whether you're, you know, somebody that's already doing something closely related, whether you support cancer, whether you support Alzheimer's or lupus, you know, this is a situation where we're servicing what would be considered the underserved population. And we're not doing it. I say we're included. We're not doing it in secret. And the interesting thing, and I keep coming back to that. In the beginning, we were kind of, the society norm was giving people bags at night. But then, you know, young people have a way of, you know, expression. Like, you know, once you've given voice, and they said, you know, oftentimes young people in my village give me, you know, directions and tentacles to go out there and do different things. So you can check out, you know, No More Secrets, Mind, Body, and Spirit. The website is at the end. If you have a need, you can definitely call them. But as we kind of round down the show, Lynette, I want you to tell, you know, what do you want people, you can do it in two places. What do you want the adults, and what do you want the youth to know? What do you want to tell them?
I think I want people to know that our bodies are beautiful. The menstrual cycle is a normal part of life. It's actually a powerful part of life, because none of us would be here if we did not have them.
Right.
And I think we need to normalize it and stop thinking of it as nasty. And I also want the young people to know that I'm going to continue fighting for them.
Right.
I'm going to continue fighting this battle. You know, I've gotten, you know, different citations, resolutions, awards and stuff, but it hasn't stopped me from fighting. It's just really, as I tell people, I'm not giving a voice to the voiceless. All I'm doing is amplifying the voice that they have in the spaces and places that they can't get to. They have a voice. They have a mighty voice. And I want people to know. And also, when we're talking about donations, a red bin, when we give it to an organization, a red bin costs us between $275 to $300 for every red bin we fill. Every individual bag that we fill is around $25 to $40 per bag. per person in their household. So I want people to know the costs associated with this, and that it's not something that's easily, able to be obtained from our families. They're basically deciding, can I eat today or can I buy feminine hygiene products? Do you know how a mother feels? Do you know how embarrassing that is?
I can only imagine.
Okay, and then parents who have said, you know what, they had to wear paper towel and socks all this week before you came to us. Or they had to wear construction paper or do whatever until you came to us. We thank you so much for being able to give this to us.
Or they had to stay home from school.
And they said that's been a pattern generationally. When we talked to parents, they said, me and my siblings did the same thing. Until you came along, we did not know that anything existed like this. So now you are saving the next generation to know that someone cares about our bodies. Another conversation I want to have is that it's a health risk, not only because of the menstrual cycle coming on and them taking pills and birth control pills, but also the outside of their vulvas are so raw from them wearing a sock and the absorbency isn't there. So they don't go to the doctors or anything else because of the embarrassment. So it becomes a health disparity. They won't go to the dentist or the doctor or anything because they don't want anyone to know that they've let their body break down like this. So this is really a larger epidemic than I, even myself, knew before getting into this. So we really need to deal with it at ground level.
So, and as we kind of wind down the show, we're going to show some more of you out here speaking and rallying and that kind of thing as we end the show. But how can the viewing audience help you? I mean, we know you can benefit from donations. We know that you can benefit from supplies. But what else? And getting the word out. What else can, when you stop and think, what else can help you? Volunteerism? I
guess volunteerism, but also activism.
Okay.
Like I said, if
you're an activist.
If I'm an activist and I'm out here doing it, I think letters to our officials, your city officials, your state officials, everybody, that this is something that needs to be addressed. Why isn't it being addressed? Why aren't we talking about it? I will definitely come out. I've been to lobby days. I've been to rally days. I will talk about it. Like I always talk about Holly, the person who, basically made me aware that, this is despicable. This is something that should not be, we shouldn't even be having this conversation. Once somebody knew about it, should be like, okay, how can I sign the paperwork to make sure that we have that? And also education. I keep saying, because our period of not respect the dot is also education awareness. You know how many men I've talked to who said, oh, I thought they can hold it till they went to the bathroom. I didn't know that, this was an involuntary process. So along with this is an educational program that needs to be, in all of our schools. Like we're talking to some of our schools, but we really need this education program to talk about the normalcy and what the menses is. And bathroom access, another thing. I have to go to the bathroom. You just went, but I have on a dollar store pad for real. Like,
right.
The nurse's office is not a sickness. This is normal. It should be everywhere. It should be in the front of the school. It should be, in the teacher's office. It should be in the bathrooms. That's all I'm saying. So these are the conversations that we really need to have in our communities.
You mentioned red boxes. Off the top of your head, do you know where some of the locations are that people can make donations?
Right now, people can make donations at, of course, our office at 7056 Germantown Avenue, Suite 205. Representative Sims' office. We have one at City Hall in room 115, which is the Women's Commission, and is also one of the main branch of the Free Library.
Wow! And so, so what are the next steps for Imperial Power? While we're in the dream box and while you got the microphone, what would you like to do? You told us what you like people to know, but what would you like to do? Put together a curriculum, take it to the college level?
Definitely. I would want a curriculum. Well, we have a curriculum. Okay. We want it to be mandated in all of our schools and settings and also in businesses. Like you talked about at your place of employment, to normalize it so that even workers and persons can go in their bathroom and get it. People miss days of work. We're trying to get people from, on public assistance to work. You know how many women have said, I couldn't go to the interview because I didn't have a pad or tampon? We provide suits and shoes, but who's providing feminine hygiene products? Wow. So really, the education piece and allowing, them to have access to supplies.
Wow. This is Lynette Medley Thurman, my friend. My childhood Lucy. If I was the blockhead that you always pulled the football, you're not pulling the football, you're throwing the football, and we're ready to accept the passes. All right, that's my show. I'm really, really, really proud of you. I'm proud of your success with this, and it's you know how I feel about you. But the public doesn't know that you have somebody giving of themselves, and that does make you an activist. You're our Y2K activist, and I really appreciate you. In period poverty, respect the diet. No more secrets. Mind, body, and spirit. Incorporate it. Look at the bottom of your screen. Thank you so much, Lynette Medley Thurman, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And educating us. All right, that's my show. Check me out on Saturdays at 4 p.m. on Word at 96.1 FM or 900 AM. You've been on that show a few times. You've been my guest host.
Yes.
So check us out. Check us out. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Start on our next delivery. Naya is now carrying the bin again. We're at Frederick Douglass Mastery Charter School. Make sure that's the right name. We've been to so many schools. Yeah, Frederick Douglass. Can you turn it around? Naya. Woo-hoo. All right, so we're making our donation to Frederick Douglass. So we got a request from the social worker here, so we're going to gift them free feminine hygiene products so that we can basically end period poverty in our communities. We do this 365 days a year. Schools and stuff. Yeah, you can do it now if you want. You can sit right there. Sit right there. Thank you. Yep.
Did you know he'll help you understand? Did you know always a right-hand man? Did you know he's gonna make it clear? Did you know? Come on, listen here. Did you know?
Always Best Care specializes in helping seniors who wish to remain in their home but need assistance. Our flexible care programs vary from hourly to live-in. Simply put, we're there when you need us. And Always Best Care is an approved Community Health Choices provider. Call today and we'll meet with you to develop a personalized care plan. Always Best Care Senior Services, doing more, caring more, and dedicated to exceeding your expectations. Always.
Always Best Care is a great place to work.
Flexibility,
Leadership. Purpose.
Great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs.
If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Do you know how it is to have to ask someone for a pad or a tampon? It's humbling to have to tell someone that I'm using toilet paper. I had to have my daughter use toilet paper. It's a nationwide epidemic, but if you think about it, anywhere that poverty exists, this would exist and no one's talking about it because of the stigma and taboo. No More Secrets Mind, Body, Spirit Incorporated is actually one of the nation's first and only comprehensive sexuality awareness organizations. We give free feminine hygiene products to individuals and their families. We do, counseling and education. We do empowerment for women. And our largest thing right now is period or not, respect the dot. And that is our work.